Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another edition, Two-Way Tonight. Thank you for joining. A lot of news, two great guests. Tall Arnold Palmer by my side. All is right in the world. Thank you for joining. If you're here on the Two-Way platform, you want to be part of our conversation with our two great guests, please raise your hand. If you're watching on X or on YouTube, don't put smack in the chat. Think thoughts of peace, love, and understanding wherever you go, whatever you do, whoever you're with, and exchange the presumption of grace to all. Another night where we've got a returning guest and a new guest, often a recipe for sizzly fireworks. Our returning guest, Matt Gorman, Republican strategist, and our new guest, Steven Olikara, is from Wisconsin, and he's a really interesting fellow. I'm looking forward to having him on here and letting everybody meet him and hear what he has to say about the day's news. And there is a lot of news. There's news on Ukraine. There's news on Jeffrey Epstein. There's news on a big Republican poll. There's news on the New York City mayor's race. There's news on the Fed. There's news on the Supreme Court. It's a lot of news. So we'll get to it all with our guests. And then again, we want your questions and comments. So please, if you'd like to be in the conversation, raise your hand. All right. First, a message from our sponsor, Cozy Earth. Cozy Earth makes clothes that you will not believe. I've been wearing them all summer using the bedding. Viscose from bamboo is how they make their stuff, and it is outstandingly comfortable and will keep you cool in these hot months. I'm looking forward to wearing it in winter too, to tell you the truth, because it's so comfortable. But I know why they are so keen on the fact that it keeps you cool. If you buy their bedding, you get a 100-night sleep trial. Try them all. Beds, bedding stuff, and if you don't like it, you can return it. But if you keep it, you get a 10-year warranty, which ain't bad. It's a decade of cool quality sleep, which I've had now for about 2 months, and I can tell you it is cool quality sleep. Upgrade your summer sleep. Head right now to CozyEarth.com. While you're there, you want a discount of 40%. Use the code TWOWAY, 40% off their best-selling sheets, pajamas, and more. I'll say it again. Couldn't like this stuff more, and I'm obsessed with the pants. Sleep cooler, lounge lighter, stay cozy. All right, now, the Epstein story is just incredibly confusing and really interesting. In our business, the business I'm in, people say sometimes there's a choice between covering what's interesting and what's important. And I think the key to being a good journalist is to make the important interesting and to be drawn towards stories that are both the Ukraine story and the Epstein story are both interesting. At least one of them is important. I don't know if the Epstein story is important. We'll maybe figure that out during the program today. I want to play you one thing and then bring in our guests. One thing. This is President Trump today talking about two things. We're going to play 8 and 9 back to back, Sam. This is President Trump today in the Oval Office with the head of NATO, talking about how unhappy he is with Putin and how he's learned to kind of distrust him. Play 8 and 9 back to back, please. 8 and 9.
One of the reasons that you're here today is to hear that we are very unhappy, I am, with Russia. But we'll discuss that maybe a different day. But we're very, very unhappy with them, and we're going to be doing very severe tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. Tariffs at about 100%. You'd call them secondary tariffs. You know what that means. But today we're going to talk about something else. And as you know, we've spent $350 billion approximately on this war with Russia and Ukraine. And would like to see it end. It wasn't my war. It was Biden's war. It's not my war. I'm trying to get you out of it. And we want to see it end. And I'm disappointed in President Putin because I thought we would have had a deal 2 months ago, but it doesn't seem to get there. So based on that, we're going to be doing secondary tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. It's very simple. And they'll be at 100%. And that's the way it is. That can be more simple. It's just the way it is. I hope we don't have to do it. I go home, I tell the First Lady, I spoke to Vladimir today. We had a wonderful conversation. She said, oh, really? Another city was just hit. So it's like, look.
All right. Lots to discuss on Ukraine and Russia. Joining us now are two guests. And again, Matt Gorman, you've seen him here before. Republican strategist. And Steven, first time here. Steven, you're from Wisconsin.
Yes.
And I've been watching YouTube clips of you all day. You know how sometimes, like, if you're an Elvis Costello fan and you search peace, love, and understanding, and then off the algorithm can read your mind, will offer you up. You could watch 10 hours of Elvis Costello. I've been watching clips of you all day.
I'm sorry.
No, it really, you're so talented. You've run for public office how many times?
Just once.
Just once, for the Senate seat. And who won that Senate seat?
So Mandela Barnes won the Democratic primary. Yeah. Ron Johnson won the general.
Yeah. And that was a very crowded primary. You, Mandela Barnes, a guy who owns the Milwaukee Bucks, was crowded, but incredible. And how would you characterize your politics?
I would say I'm an independent-minded populist. I believe in reforming the democratic process, and very comfortable calling out corruption in both parties.
Don't take this the wrong way, but I looked at your announcement video, and Donald Trump could have said half the things you said. Yeah. Because you are a populist, but you're also idealistic. Mm-hmm. I get talking to sources all the time. They say things that I find just stunningly cynical. They'll say, well, the only reason Charlie Kirk is talking about Epstein is because he's getting a lot of clicks. And it's like, no, I think it could be because he really believes that there's an issue here. Matt Gorman has never been accused of being cynical, so this wouldn't be a good juxtaposition. Here's a good juxtaposition. Stephen, where did you watch Wimbledon if you did yesterday?
I watched it from my apartment building's rooftop.
Yeah, and you live in Wisconsin, right?
Yeah, I split my time between Wisconsin and DC. Yeah.
Okay, but did you watch it from your own apartment in DC or Wisconsin?
Yeah, in DC actually.
In DC. Okay, so from your own private residence, and just for sake of comparison, Matt Gorman, where did you, fiery Republican populist, where did you watch Wimbledon?
Yesterday, I watched it in my recliner.
Okay, I meant the day before.
With my dog, but the day before, I knew you were going there.
Yeah.
The day before, I watched it from the UK Embassy with Scott Besant.
The British Embassy.
Our closest friends.
Stephen, you ever been invited to watch Wimbledon at the British Embassy?
I haven't, but Matt, I would love to be invited.
Yeah, me too.
So what we have here is a classic example of the people versus the powerful.
Right.
Stephen and I watch at home drinking a Schlitz, and Matt Gorman's having a Pimm's cup at the British Embassy. How'd you get that invitation, Matt Gorman?
Just over the years, you just stay on the lists. You know?
Okay. Well, it's impressive. Anyway, gentlemen, couldn't be happier to have you both here. And I want to start, Stephen, with you. And where are you on this question that President Trump today talked about, not just sending offensive and defensive weapons via the Europeans to Ukraine, but also talked about putting economic sanctions and tariffs on Russia. Although Senator Thune said, well, just a few minutes ago, they're going to delay voting on the sanctions bill. I thought they'd vote for it and pocket it, but it seems like they may delay it. But where are you on America's role here? Are you happy with the direction things are heading? How do you see it?
Well, the one thing I am happy to see is Trump finally having more of a stance of standing up for America as opposed to Russia, and having a more aggressive approach against Putin. So that's a welcome development from Trump. But I really want to give voice to what I'm seeing from both progressive populists and libertarians. Progressive populists like Ro Khanna, libertarians like Justin Amash, who are speaking to how these weapons are being sold to NATO and then they're giving it to Ukraine. Sort of create this image of the U.S. not directly being involved in a war. We are involved in this war, and this is sidestepping the constitutional process, which is Congress has to authorize any wars that the U.S. is involved in, and this has been going on for too long. So I associate myself with the anti-war side of both the left and the right that I think is skeptical of these sort of endless entanglements.
And here I'm going to be pushed into being in the Matt Gorman cynical side, because here's someone idealistically saying Congress, an ostensible co-equal branch vested with the war powers, should actually be involved here. Matt Gorman and I, we just roll our eyes at that and say, we'd like to sell you the bridge over the 14th Street Bridge at this point. But thank you for saying that. Really interesting. Matt Gorman, I can't believe we hadn't come up with this scheme before. We sell it to the Europeans. Ukraine gets its weapons. Donald Trump gets money in the bank. This seems brilliant, no, for MAGA?
Yes. I mean, it's a great way to sell it. My first thought was, Mark, it felt like the day after the Iowa caucuses in 2016. And the reason I say that is because if you remember, I forget this a lot. That Trump lost the Iowa caucus in 2016 to Ted Cruz, but
He
the
did.
day after, to switch the narrative, he starts saying Ted Cruz is born in Canada, right?
Yeah.
And this felt very much the way it was portrayed to Russia, a statement on Russia. He knows that the mainstream press can't help themselves when the words Trump and Russia appear in a chyron. And so he knew this would help do a lot to push that Epstein stuff off the front page and off the tops of the cable news packages. So I think that was my first thought on all of this. And he was able to kind of bring this out to the ether in a way that, look, we're leading the show with this.
Yeah.
With conservatives on Epstein.
Yeah. Well,
I agree with that, by the way.
that it's smart and strategic and tactical.
Yes.
Yeah. But also, I mean, the head of NATO was coming already.
Oh yeah.
This is the time when I step in and be less cynical than the both of you. The head of NATO was coming already. This is a good idea as a standalone, regardless of what's going on with Epstein, right? So it seems
1,000%.
Seems to me if Epstein weren't happening, he might have done this the exact same way. No?
Possibly. I think especially though the framing on Russia, right?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't Ukraine, and also I think that was important for the base.
Yeah.
It wasn't a Ukraine issue; it was a Russia issue.
Yeah. Stephen, do you consider Zelensky to be both competent and not corrupt? Think he's competent and not corrupt, or do you disagree with either of those characterizations?
Well, I think both of those are a high bar for him. I think, you see a lot of stories about potential corruption. It's hard for us to really know what all is fact or fiction on that front. In terms of competence, his Oval Office meeting with President Trump was a total disaster. I mean, most foreign leaders know how to operate with Trump, which is suck up to him as much as possible while standing your ground as much as you can. And so I think he failed on that count. But at the same time, if you look at the Ukraine war started when I was actively running for a U.S. Senate, and so we very much had to put forth our policies on this and evaluate our take on Zelensky at that time. And I think he was doing a pretty strong job at that time, building coalitions, building the case internationally for support. But I think now there's just a sense of where is this going? What's the end game here? And I think that's where populists are getting a little bit exhausted.
Yeah, Matt Gorman, what do you think happens next? Let's assume these things go. Is it possible that it changes facts on the ground?
We'll see. I mean, I think that I don't know.
Yeah.
But right now, it gives NATO more ownership of this thing, right? Which has been, whether it's Ukraine or anything else, I think Trump has really been careful to make sure NATO owns more of the security in Western Europe. So it advances that.
Yep.
It obviously is very much more defensible to the base, so we're not giving them things, we're selling them things. It solves a bunch of political things and also longer term goals for Trump. And I thought it was interesting the Melania piece, like that was I thought interesting too. And he gave a little insight to their relationship. I thought it was interesting.
Yes, I remember once one of the first stories Trump ever told me when I started occasionally meeting with him at Trump Tower was. Once Tom Cruise asked if he could use Woolman Rink, like before it opened, he wanted to go skating with Woolman Rink. And Trump was like, he said to Melania, incredible, Tom Cruise asked me, called me up and personally asked me. And Melania said, you are bigger than Tom Cruise. I felt that. And that was before he was president. I felt that gave me good insight too, that story. All right, Epstein. This morning, we were kind of watching two, I don't know if they're parallel tracks or perpendicular or what. One was, would the administration have to change tact? That President Trump's bizarro Truth Social post was not enough, and they were going to have a press conference or appoint a special counsel or do something. So one track was, are they going to have to give more? And then the other track was, could they get their allies who have been so critical of them to back down and be less critical? Because obviously part of what the media is covering, part of what's creating the tension is you've got people like Steve Bannon and Laura Loomer and other people saying, something has to give here. So one of each seems to have occurred. Here's Charlie Kirk after getting a call from his friends in the White House. Here's what Charlie Kirk said, number one.
I'm done talking about Epstein for the time being. I'm going to trust my friends in the administration. I'm going to trust my friends in the government to do what needs to be done, solve it, balls in their hands. I've said plenty this last weekend. So if you guys want to see my commentary on it, that's fine.
Okay, so that's pretty good. I've been thinking lately, this MAGA thing, it's so out there. Like, you know, when Musk was attacking, before he started attacking Trump, when he was attacking his colleagues in the administration, they just, Stephen, your side just doesn't have these like public like brawls. Like when Steve Ricchetti calls, you know, Tammy Baldwin to chew her out, it's private. Matt's team just does it all in the open. So here's Charlie basically saying this thing that I was so passionate about last week into the weekend, you know, I've said enough. Incredible. But here's Laura Trump talking to Benny about they're going to do more. Number 2.
Your advice, given this back and forth, we're just coming off of Turning Point here in Tampa. This was the topic of conversation. What would be your advice in order to take the temperature down on this issue from within the administration?
Well, I do think that there needs to be more transparency on this. And I think that will happen. As it relates to the president, I know that this is probably not his number one thing he's focused on. He's focused on a lot of other important things. So I don't know that this was top of mind for him, but he hears all the noise and he hears all of the consternation out there. And I think he's going to want to set things right as well. So I believe that there will probably be more coming on this. And I believe anything that they are able to release that doesn't, damage any witnesses or anyone underage or anything like that, I believe they'll probably try to get out sooner rather than later because they hear it and they understand it. So hopefully we see that happen sooner than later. And I guess that would be my advice. But to everybody out there who's all worked up about it, there's no great plot to keep this information away that I'm aware of. I do just believe that maybe it's been slow rolled for reasons that hopefully we understand down the line. And I think we're probably going to get more transparency on it very soon.
Matt Gorman, I had a longtime Trump advisor today tell me there's nothing in the data that suggests this is a problem. That, sure, if you're an activist, maybe it's a problem, but that real people are not talking about this or thinking about it. Is that true? What say you about how big an issue?
I think real people talk about it, but that doesn't mean it's going to move votes. It's the weird confluence where it's very online, yes, but also people, like regular people, understand the Epstein story. So it's not like you're trying to sell them something really obscure. So it kind of does that. But I think what's more frustrating is if you're in the White House or you're in the Trump administration, is you came off probably the best 3 weeks to a month you've ever had in either term. Like litany of successes, domestic, foreign, and this just overtakes it, and it's your own side, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't even weaponize against the media on this. So it's got to be very frustrating for that. And I saw some of the things put out there. I mean, a special counsel, special prosecutor would be not a great thing to do. That would just prolong this. No one's ever liked appointing that. Just ask Joe Biden.
Yeah.
So I think Laura obviously knows something. They'll probably dump some other things out there to the extent they can in a way that controls it. But yeah, this was got to be frustrating for the White House.
Stephen, what's the idealistic populist left point of view, not of how the White House is handling it, but of the Epstein matter?
Well, I think what we're hearing is just a need to disclose it. People want to have transparency. And the challenge is, if you look at what's happening with the two parties culturally, generally the Democrats, more of the establishment wing in particular, has been trusting of authority. The Republican Party has been questioning of authority. We just saw in that clip Charlie Kirk say, "I trust my friends in the government." When was the last time we've heard Charlie Kirk say a statement like that? And I think you see a lot of Charlie Kirk come out there, which was the weekend version, which I've spent a lot of time with Charlie in green rooms. And this is someone who's definitely very sharp, but at the same time, he likes his access. And if he wants to maintain his access, he has to give an apologetic statement in the way that he did, which is, I trust the people in the government. I think on the Democratic side, certainly it's a lot of people enjoying this Republican civil war that's going on right now, and then also calling for disclosure because, there's a real part of the story here, which is there are real victims that deserve justice and deserve to know who all is on this list. And I don't think the story is going away anytime soon.
Stephen, do you have any heroes in the current Democratic Party? Anybody who's currently active you describe as a hero?
I don't know if there's one person who's put it all together, but I do think the person who's the most different and doing a good job of being a bridge builder, not only between moderates and progressives, but also Democrats and Republicans. And that's Ro Khanna, who I'm sure is looking at 2028 right now.
Yeah. Steve, Matt, who would your hero be in the Republican Party today?
Ooh, look, I will say this. I think J.D. Vance has done an incredible job, and he's
Yeah.
played this extremely well.
All right, let's transition. Let's put up number 17. There's a new poll out tonight from, I think it's from Echelon. It's a respected polling outfit. Sam, can you put that up big? It's a poll of Republicans. There's a Democratic one too, that not as interesting. Is that up? I don't see it.
Yeah, I see it. It's up.
Yeah.
That's funny. Everybody sees
It's
it.
up.
Everybody sees it but me. Hilarious. All right. There it is. Now I see it. And if you can see it, you can see JD Vance is way ahead. Ron DeSantis, Marco Rubio, Nikki Haley way back. And this dovetails with my view of the race. And this is before Donald Trump endorses JD Vance, which I predict will happen. And of course, the relative success or failure of the administration will play a role in this. But Matt Gorman, if you're looking at that and you're an advisor to Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz or anybody else or Nikki Haley, do you say, well, it's early, this is all meaningless, or do you say this represents where the field actually is?
But it's early, but it also represents where the field is. I mean, look, let's face it. I think Vance almost certainly will get some sort of challenge. I mean, Donald Trump got.
I don't agree, but go ahead.
Okay. I mean, look, I would say, look, Donald Trump got real people running against him, not like, dummies. And so he will have some sort of perfunctory challenge. I firmly believe that. I don't think it'll be, I think he'll most likely, the way things stand right now, if today was a thing, he'd be the nominee.
Yeah.
But I think, he'll get some sort of challenge.
Stephen, if you were a special consultant to the Democratic National Committee and they said, we don't want Vance to get up ahead of steam. We'll probably have a competitive primary. We want to take this guy down as soon as possible. What kind of things do you think right now what the party could do to bring him down a peg or 8?
Well, the first thing I'd point to is that usually these early polling leaders don't ultimately do well when the primary starts. And I think if you look at JD Vance, he has obviously reinvented himself many times. I remember spending a whole day with him in Wisconsin, the previous version of JD Vance back in 2017, talking about entrepreneurship. We were doing a tour with Steve Case around northeastern Wisconsin. And at that time, that was a complete, I spent a whole day with him, a completely different JD Vance than the one that we see on the national stage right now. So obviously there are a lot of things from his past that you could bring into the present that would be unflattering to JD. But I think the other thing to notice with JD Vance is that he hasn't truly been tested in a way that a presidential race would test him. And here's what I mean by that. So first, he had the U.S. Senate primary win in Ohio, which certainly was impressive, but he had Peter Thiel essentially bankrolling his campaign, and no one else had that kind of money. If you looked at J.D. Vance's own fundraising numbers, they were far behind many of the other candidates. So he gets through that, and he wins, and then he was selected to be the vice president. People primarily vote for president, not for vice president. So I just think that when you put him up on this kind of stage, a presidential campaign stage, I think we have yet to see whether he's prepared for that kind of scrutiny.
Interesting. Matt, when did you first meet JD Vance?
Let's see. His first
before he was a politician?
No, one of his first fundraisers for the Senate run.
Yeah. So Benny Johnson, who was interviewing Lara Trump there, says there's going to be big changes, more disclosures, maybe even a special counsel and a full briefing. All the things that have been on the table, even though Matt and Sean Spicer both think a special counsel would be nutsy cuckoo. All right, so we'll keep watching that. I feel like something might happen during the show here, so we'll keep watching. All right, guys, I'm going to ask you about some stuff. Let's be like the rapid round. Give me like your superficial cocktail party response to these other developments. Supreme Court, number 15. They cleared the way for the dismantling of the Department of Education. They ruled that the steps the administration wants to take to, I don't know, completely eliminate, but certainly scale it back. Another big Supreme Court decision in favor of the administration. I continue to be surprised. I thought they would be a little more mixed on these things. Stephen, what do you think of the Supreme Court once again ruling for the president?
Well, obviously the president controls the Supreme Court. I'm just reminded of former candidate Rick Perry, who wanted to dismantle the Department of Education, but couldn't remember the name of the department. Do you remember that?
Was that the one he forgot?
I think that was the one he forgot. It was
energy, commerce, and
couldn't remember the third one.
Yeah.
And then someone else had to give it to him. So I just think this is my point with bringing that up, is this has been a talking point for a long time on the Republican side. And so it's no surprise that Trump wants to try and actually accomplish that. Yeah. Obviously, there are many important programs that the Department of Energy, look at me pulling a Rick Perry there. The Department of Education does, including financial aid for low-income students who are attending universities. So, certainly that department could be reformed and improved, but I hope we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater like we're doing with USAID and a number of other programs.
All right. Now in Wisconsin, they have a different conception of rapid round than we do here.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's my polite way of saying it. Matt, you guys are getting a lot of wins at the Supreme Court. Are you surprised by that, or how surprised are you?
No, I mean, that's why we work so hard and play for keeps when the time comes every couple years. But with the Department of Education, look, it's great because also not a member of Congress has to vote in favor of dismantling it, which is it's a tough vote. Take it from me. Yeah. And also, Trump is not going to run again. I mean, so it's easier for him to do, and especially this way, than try to pass a bill.
Yeah. All right. Again, raise your hand if you want the conversation. We'll go through a few more things. 18, President Obama did a fundraiser Friday night in New Jersey, and his office today circulated the Team Obama does on occasion. They'll circulate a bunch of his remarks to make sure they get the attention he wants them to get. And what he said at this fundraiser, according to the New York Times, is that Democrats need to toughen up. They need to toughen up in order to fight Donald Trump. And this was to a group of donors in New Jersey. What do you think of that, Matt? Is that the problem, that they're not tough enough against Trump?
Yeah, it's a typical Obama coming in on a high. I'm so sorry we disappointed you. It's pretty rich coming from him. He was a good political athlete, but he also had mainstream media coming after 8 years of Republican rule. Like, there's a lot of things in his favor.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really put much stock into it.
Steven, is tough the missing ingredient?
I'm not entirely sure what he means by that. I know that obviously Democratic voters and Republican voters want someone who can fight. And I think that's why you've seen Gavin Newsom gain a little bit of steam, because Democratic primary voters see him as a fighter. He's not my guy. Just want to put that out there, but I'm seeing that movement there. But I also think, and this might have been in that same article, in the same speech, where Obama was praising the recent abundance movement. I don't know if you've all been following this, deliver results style of Democratic politics. So I think he was trying to endorse that a little bit too.
Okay. So New York City mayor's race, Andrew Cuomo today said what's been talked about for the last several days, that he is going to stay on the ballot. He's going to run an aggressive campaign and try to beat Mamdani as an independent. And it's just a fact. At the same time that many of his donors and supporters from the Democratic primary have moved on, either Mayor Adams or Mamdani. The polls are all pretty clear. He does have the second biggest pool of support right now, and he's supporting this concept of whichever one of the other 4 candidates on the ballot has got the best poll standing in mid-September. Everybody else should get out, and I'm not sure he's going to get his way. Here is his announcement video, and I'll tell you, I have to subtract points because he said, "I'm in it to win it," which has been done before. Here's Andrew Cuomo, in it to win it. 10B, please.
Oh, I'm Andrew Cuomo. And unless you've been living under a rock, you probably know that the Democratic primary did not go the way I had hoped. To the 440,000 New Yorkers who voted for me, a sincere thank you. Thank you for believing in me, in my agenda, and in my experience. And I am truly sorry that I let you down. But as my grandfather used to say, when you get knocked down, learn the lesson and pick yourself back up and get in the game. And that is what I'm going to do. The fight to save our city isn't over. Only 13% of New Yorkers voted in the June primary. The general election is in November, and I am in it to win it. My opponent, Mr. Mamdani, offers slick slogans, but no real solutions. We need a city with lower rent, safer streets.
Okay. All
where
right.
buying your first home
That's
is
enough of that. Now here's Mr. Mamdani reacting to Cuomo's remarks. Number 11, please.
I welcome everyone to this race, and I am as confident as I have been since 3 weeks ago on primary night when we faced Andrew Cuomo then and won that race by more than 12 points, with the most votes of any Democratic nominee in New York City primary history. And we did so because of the fact that while Andrew Cuomo and Eric Adams trip over themselves to make deals in back rooms with billionaires, we are focused on fighting for working New Yorkers. I think he's struggling to come to terms with what Tuesday meant. We spent an entire campaign being told that it was inevitable for Andrew Cuomo to become the next mayor. And he believed that himself. And what we saw was New Yorkers' hunger for a new kind of politics. A politics focused on working people. A politics where far more New Yorkers than before could see themselves in it, in those same policies. And I understand that it is difficult for the former governor to come to terms with that, because it is a repudiation of the politics that he has practiced, that he has known for so many years. And it is that same politics that we are turning the page on.
Stephen, I want to ask you about Mamdani and what you think of his brand of politics, but how do you handicap the race now?
Well, I think today was definitely good news for Mamdani because you're going to have these different factions emerging with Cuomo and Adams, and I hear with Cuomo saying that he might, drop out depending on the polling in September. But I think I would still say Mamdani has a 65 to 70% chance of winning this whole thing.
Okay, Matt, how do you handicap the race?
I mean, I almost fell asleep during Cuomo's video. I mean, my gosh, like, you had examples of like how to do this well with Mamdani's videos, and it was just so boring. I think it's the same sort of thing. I mean, Sliwa, Adams, Cuomo, it's a clown car of bad candidates that can't, or won't have the others to drop out. I feel like I'm back in the spring of 2016 again in the Republican primary.
Mark, can I just say one thing that's I think happening behind the scenes here with this? What's going on with the Cuomo candidacy, I think it's not just about policy. I think it's also about access. We've seen the reports about the donors, the plutocrats in New York who have essentially drafted Cuomo to run. It's a lot easier for them to make a phone call to Cuomo than they can to Mamdani, and I think that's part of this too.
Yeah. And how would you, Stephen, how, as a student, as a very sophisticated student of your party and of populism and progressivism and other isms, how would you describe his ideology? How would you describe where he sits at this moment in the party's history?
Well, I think this is this is going to be a watershed moment if he wins, in the sense that one of the most ascendant parts of the Democratic Party has been this populist wing that Bernie Sanders started really in 2016. You had AOC take the mantle from him, but neither of them have had real positions of governing responsibility. I don't know, and Mark, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if any bill that AOC has actually passed. But if can you think of one?
I can't.
I can't either.
I can't rule it out, but I can't.
Mamdani, if he wins this position, New York City mayor, that's a real position. You have to govern a major budget in a major city, and it'll be truly the first test of this governing vision. It'll be the full attempt to implement this sort of democratic socialism you've seen. I don't subscribe to a number of things in that vision, but I think it'll be a key watershed moment for the party.
You ever met that guy?
I haven't, but we do have mutual friends, including in the New York State legislature.
Yeah.
And one thing that they've told me is that this guy's the real deal as a political athlete. The things that he does subtly behind the scenes, the way that he treats people. I would say this, number of my Democratic assemblyman friends in New York are privately much more excited and high on Mamdani than they can be publicly.
If you were inclined to help him and he called you and said, give me some advice for the general election, what advice would you give him?
I mean, there's some structural things I would have fixed a long time ago, like not calling yourself a democratic socialist, but that's obviously pretty baked in at this point. I think, I think the most important thing is to lean into your authenticity, and I think he has done a good job of that, and he's been able to convey that publicly and into his social media presence. That's where a lot of candidates fail, so I'd just encourage him to continue to lean into that.
Yeah, Matt Gorman, mercenary. If the Cuomo people hired you and paid you like a Burisma level retainer, and you wanted to help Andrew win this race, I know you didn't like that video. What could Andrew Cuomo do with the tutelage of Matt Gorman to try to beat a very hot candidate?
I mean, let me put it this way. I wouldn't take the job unless I felt that he was ready to act and campaign like an underdog, that he is. Like, there's just so much. His entire campaign's reeked of entitlement. And I get it, right? Why not? If you're a Cuomo, you're the scion of a political dynasty in that state. Why wouldn't you feel entitled? But like, if, he better have woken up.
But what do you want to see him out on the street? 6 events a day, press conferences?
6 events a day. He needs to I want to know what in the polling is it the stuff with the women's accusing him of sexual harassment? Like, what exactly are the roadblocks in the polling? He has to address those head on. Like, he just has to become more nimble than he has been.
Yeah. All right. I could ask more, but let's bring in our folks from the community. Tell everybody after you unmute, Riley, where you are and what's on your mind for Matt and Steven. Thank you for being part of Two Way.
Yeah, thank you. I'm calling from Worcester today, Worcester, Massachusetts. I just wanted to share my thoughts. I was in my hometown, in the more rural part of the state this past weekend. I took the time to talk to a lot of my friends and some of their parents about Epstein and Trump's kind of, truths about the whole situation. The overwhelming takeaway I had among my friends and I at this point is just that I don't even think that it's surprised that it's being kind of passed over. It's just like disappointment. The overwhelming sense I get is just, there was a lot of excitement, I guess, among my friends maybe after this last election, and just the vibes have shifted among young people. I mean, it is like eyes wide open. To just disappointment. So, I don't really know what that means for future elections, but I'll tell you, I think it's going to be very, very tough to get young people out with anybody that's anywhere near, this. It feels like, being lied to again.
Yeah.
And that's the overwhelming thing I heard among my friends and, people my age.
Riley, how old are you? Do you mind saying?
27.
27. You're very mature, 27, I have to say. Maybe I forget what 27-year-olds are like. And how would you
graduated during COVID? That was
okay. It. How would you describe the nature of your disappointment? Is it you don't trust them? What is it?
I think it really just comes down to whether there's a there or not. It's the question that Trump had asked, specifically for me at least. Why does anyone still care? As if it was like unbelievable that anybody would still care, without really any answers, right? Ghislaine Maxwell in jail, no real answers. But why does anyone care? I think that just like it's again, like I guess we're all the idiots, huh? Yeah.
So the president saying that really bothered you, is what you're saying?
Yeah, just the flippant attitude, I guess. It's just crazy to me. It's like, and then Rosie O'Donnell right afterwards talking about deporting her or, whatever. He's all over the place, but just, I honestly, he has a really impressive, sense, I think, of where the base is all the time, right? I totally hear that. But this one, crazy miss. I just have no idea how this is not.
Riley, thank you. Steven, either comment on what Riley said or question for him.
Well, the first thing that came to mind, and this is for Riley and the whole group, I mean, doesn't this remind us of what the Democratic elites were doing with Biden in the last election cycle, which is don't believe what you're seeing with your own eyes. You, the voters, are stupid. We know what we're doing. Just trust us and be quiet. I don't think that works. Saw from Democrats last year.
Yeah. Steven, do you want to ask Riley a question, or are you good?
Well, Riley, I'm just curious, who would you say politically or as a media figure has inspired you the most?
I mean, it's maybe a little bit cheesy, but I got to say, I think two-way has been fantastic, overall. But I think
That's not cheesy. That's just honest.
yeah, no, it is. But I got to say, it's been yeah, no, honestly, I would say two-way. It's just been nice to hear different people's perspective. It's killer. Great platform.
Very grateful. Go ahead.
Probably too humble to accept that compliment. I'll just say that I hear from people from very different walks of life, not just people who are politically connected on the coasts, but people in the Midwest who I grew up around in Wisconsin who tune into two-way. And so, Mark, you've been pioneering this platform. I think I would call it a more independent style of analyzing what's going on, and that's needed right now and much appreciated.
Very grateful to you both. Matt, before you weigh in, just so you know, we've never done an episode from the British Embassy. We're all about the people.
We love it. We love it.
Yeah. Matt, question for Riley?
No, I mean, look, I take your point. I would, take a couple issues with kind of some of the stuff Steven said. I don't think it's comparable to Biden's mental capacity loss. But look, I think what I would say is I think Democrats are a little bit of a bind here because, if it was so important and you wanted it out there, why didn't you release it? Like, why wasn't it a priority of the Biden administration if you were so about protecting it and guarding the truth around this and getting transparency? So I think that's why also you haven't seen Democrats really go full bore in this. As much as they want to maybe just oppose what Trump is doing, they have some level of strategy left, and it's probably the smart way to do it.
Riley, thank you. Very grateful to you. Please come back. I really do appreciate your kind words about the platform. I'm glad to hear Steven's Midwestern friends have found us too.
They have.
Another good sign. Lucas, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are after you unmute and what's on your mind for Matt.
Hey there, Mark. Always unexpected. From Chicagoland, here in Illinois. Two things I wanted to bring up. I love how you've been having younger people, millennial and X generation, kind of talking about this whole Jeffrey Epstein stuff. One point that I think a lot of your younger listeners have been kind of talking around, but maybe not directly stating, that I think is kind of impactful as far as the reaction towards this, is the fact that when you kind of really consider it, the millennial generation was Jeffrey Epstein's victims, and so yes, while it's understanding that maybe all the victims may not have been underage or they may have been at age, it's also just like a power dynamic on the younger generation, just to essentially have the Biden and Trump administration just kind of shrug it off a little bit. Not that it's not complicated, but just not feeling like this generation's being protected or acknowledged in that sense.
Great point, Lucas. Really good. Anything else you want to say or ask?
I also wanted to just ask you if you had any particular opinions on the Illinois Senate race with Dick Durbin retiring. It's opened up almost every single seat in the dang state.
Yeah,
it's a crazy free-for-all, like insane. Governor J.B. Pritzker, despite whatever Dan might say, I know he's got relations. Is trying to buy yet another seat, another thing inside Illinois. You've got Robin Kelly, U.S. representative, specifically running against the lieutenant governor candidate, just because she was spited before by Governor Pritzker. And I think that there's not as much state support for him as I think Dan Tarantine probably thinks.
Yeah. I mean, it's very hard to handicap. As you know, it's a difficult state to run in. You've got Chicago and everything else. And I'll never tired of being told or saying downstate's more like Alabama than it is like Chicago. I bet on the lieutenant governor, but I think performance will matter a lot. It reminds me a little bit of when Barack Obama won the Senate race. Nobody thought he was going to be the nominee in the beginning, and he was, right after. I think there were 6 other candidates in that field, maybe. So I think it's too soon to say, and I wouldn't be surprised if somebody emerged, particularly in a race like that, because it is Illinois. You'll see negative ads, and people can knock each other out and let somebody sneak up the middle.
The big 3 candidates are Robin Kelly, Lieutenant Governor Stratton, and then Representative Raja. I always forget to say his last name, but he's got like 20 million in the bank. Yeah, it's got 20 million in the bank, and he's also one of Obama's buddies, so
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting.
Those three are definitely the front runners, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody else could emerge. Stephen, how do you pronounce the name of the best player on the Bucks?
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Antetokounmpo. There you go. That's different than the guy who's running for Senate.
Yeah, it's just
Raja Krishnamurthy.
There you go.
He's a nice guy. It's hard to say.
Stephen, you got a knack for these long names. That's quite impressive. Matt Gorman, let me ask you this question about Illinois. When was the last time a Republican won statewide in Illinois?
Oh, I mean, that would be the person whose seat was open for Barack Obama. Well, I should say, no, excuse me, for Senate, but then of course, I'm blanking on the guy's name, the wine club guy who he was
Governor
Bruce
Rauner? Yeah, Bruce Rauner. Yeah,
I get confused between Rauner and then his predecessor.
Who was the Democratic nominee who Rauner beat?
It was Governor Pat Quinn, but he was the one that took over after Blagojevich. And the only reason why he lost, quite frankly, was just because Speaker Mike Madigan, who's now in jail for corruption, kind of just didn't really care to support him because he was not corrupt.
Well, you want hard to pronounce names. Who's the person that Mark Kirk beat for the seat? The other last name.
Alexei Janulius, who's now the Secretary of State, who now is everyone's talking about potentially running for mayor of Chicago in 27. Talk about a guy in 10, 15 years who let stuff calm down and really transformed his career.
Lucas, thank you. With the good, good Land of Lincoln review. Matt Gorman, if you were tasked by the RNC to make Republicans competitive in Illinois again, what would you do?
God, I just.
It's right next to Wisconsin. It's right next to Wisconsin.
Yeah, but then Chicago, right? I mean, they got Brandon Johnson there, who's like, there's more people on this call that I think approve of his job performance as mayor right now, but they elected him anyway. So look, you are always gonna be dealing with that, but you're right. The downstate is Moline, like that. Those are always good Republican years, but also, I mean, look, we should have more seats, right? But the districts there look just prototypes of gerrymandering.
But what are the issues that Republicans could rebuild the party around? Taxes,
I guess.
corruption?
But they like the people where you're getting your margin in Illinois like taxes. They're the Chicago voters, right? Like, that's the tough part.
Yeah. All right.
I can offer one up just
as
a little treat to the Republican side, which is the state's budget and fiscal situation has been terrible for a long time, and so that could be an issue Republicans can run up.
It's just in the age of Trump, a place like that, place like Connecticut, where I'm from, it just everything gets so federalized so quickly.
Yeah,
it's really hard.
Yeah, Bruce, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are what's on your mind for Stephen and for Matt.
Okay, thanks for calling on me. I'm from Leesburg, Virginia. 3-time Trump voter, supporter of Trump. And I wanted to raise both the Epstein and Ukraine thing from the standpoint of your monologue last week about the 7 principles of Trump's decision-making, which I thought was pretty insightful, especially since people really underestimate, and I think they get caught off guard by underestimating and not really thinking about how deep Trump's thinking is, if that's the right word.
Yeah.
And so on the Epstein thing, I do think MAGA went a little bit crazy over this. I think they got cranked up expecting something that really wasn't there. There probably will be more more documents coming out, but I don't think they're going to show anything that's going to satisfy anybody. And I think it's going to recede into the background based on what's happening. And on Ukraine, I'm thinking about Trump's decision-making. We don't know what Lavrov and Rubio talked about, and Rubio made this statement that it was a interesting and positive thing. Something new. And I thought that what Trump did today was not what Lindsey Graham was pumping up yesterday and has been sort of encouraging people that, this is going to be a big change and Trump is going to go hard on Putin. He's selling weapons. They're weapons that are already there in Europe. They're not going to make any difference on the battlefield in the war, from what I can see. And the threat of sanctions is not what that Lindsey Graham Blumenthal were talking about. And he's put it off for 50 days, which gives him lots of wiggle room to try and force a deal.
Yeah.
Wondering
although he can also change his mind about the deadline.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like what he did with Netanyahu. He's got a problem because Hamas is the problem in the Middle East and the Gaza thing, but Netanyahu is also the problem because he's got problems in Israel and so forth. And Trump is trying to keep both sides. In Ukraine, he's got a similar thing where Zelensky's a problem, but Putin is a problem too for different reasons.
Right.
And so what I'm thinking is that Trump is going to work this thing. And frankly, from the standpoint of the MAGA base, getting into an escalated war in Ukraine is going to be much more of a strong reaction than this, what I think is a flurry around Epstein. But I was wondering from the standpoint of what you said, how do you think Trump is thinking about this?
Yeah, Bruce, thank you. Matt, in case you didn't listen to my monologue, I made the case of Trump's decision-making process is a little more sophisticated than his detractors think. So this is something that he promised to do. He said he was being sarcastic when he said day one, but how do you think Trump's approaching this decision-making on Ukraine?
I think, well, I think you're right, and even and the people who just totally dismiss him do so at their own peril, right? And even if you dismiss Trump personally, the people around him aren't stupid either. But regardless, I think you're exactly right. He wants to cut a deal, and it's all about leverage. And I think that's why I never understood people not understanding why the sanctions package wasn't rolling through Congress, as if it's a total vacuum alongside these negotiations. No, they go hand in hand. It's carrots and sticks and all of that. And so, he clearly was willing to give Putin a lot more rope at the start of the administration, and he feels burned. And I think he's using the leverage and the sticks now a lot more. And as much as it probably pains him, I think one thing that's also notable, he's doing this with the NATO. He's not doing. There's no Zelensky there to say thank you. The interpersonal stuff between him and Zelensky is still real, but if NATO can be a proxy for it, he's willing to do it to try and squeeze Putin.
Stephen, what are things about Trump that you think your party underestimates or undervalues in terms of his skills?
I would say the topic we're discussing right now, foreign policy. I was thinking about Democrats I know who are in the federal government, national security, foreign policy positions, who've been under both Democratic and Republican administrations, who have told me how impressed they've been at moments with Trump's approach to foreign policy. And for example, getting some of these European countries to step up their funding for NATO is something other presidents haven't been able to do. So I would say that's where he's often underestimated.
Stephen, since Reagan, who's the best president the United States has had and why?
Obama, because I would say he, although he wasn't able to fully translate his vision into a legislative agenda, and I have a lot of critiques and thoughts of how that could have happened, which I'd love to talk about if we have time. But I would say, as an individual who can bring dignity to the office, he never had a major personal scandal in office. Someone who's a role model. I'm reading a great book called The Impossible Presidency about the history of the American presidency. And, part of the vision of this office is to be that figurehead that can truly unite Americans. And he at least had a moment where he did unite Americans. And he was someone who, whether you disagree with him or agree with him, you could say you'd be proud if your kids were looking up to him.
And what was the thing you said you want to discuss regarding his policies and implementation?
Yeah, well, I think he came in, he had such a big moment to unify the country. And he talked about changing the culture of Washington. That's the reason why he won the primary against Hillary Clinton, who was kind of standard Democratic candidate that year. So to not lead with an agenda that can change the culture of Washington, I think directly led to Trump's rise, saying that we can drain the swamp. Now, I would say Trump has not done a good enough job of draining the swamp either. And that is why we live in this populist moment, as neither Trump nor Obama have truly rooted out the corruption and changed the culture of how Washington works. I think he had that moment. Instead, he went to a very divisive issue like healthcare, and he told a number of Republicans who, there was in fact a meeting that happened of major Republican leaders January 2009, and basically the message to those Republicans in that meeting was, I won, you lost.
Yeah.
That's how we're going to run this thing.
Yeah. Stephen, you ever heard of Matt Gorman? You can be honest.
I have. I need to learn more though.
Okay. So now Matt, you can be honest. You'd never heard of Stephen before today, right?
I looked him up. No,
okay. But before today you hadn't. All right. I'm going to read you. I'm going to read you the description of Steven's business. And Matt, I want you to use your vast knowledge of the universe to explain what Steven's business does based on this description. Ready? It's something called Bridge Entertainment Labs. Bridge Entertainment Labs is a resource to the entertainment industry, igniting compelling stories to bridge political and social divides. Matt, how does Steven make his money?
It's probably, I think right now, probably the same way Barack Obama does. No, it sounds like he tells stories and connects people in very good, lucrative industries.
Steven, are you making content or are you just bridging?
Doing both, and we're a nonprofit. So to answer the
you're a
question
nonprofit.
to Matt is we fundraise and operate a non.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so is there an analog you could name that would explain what you do? Is there something out there that you're?
I would actually do a political analog. So there's an organization I founded before Bridge Entertainment Labs called Future Caucus, previously named Millennial Action Project, but then millennials got a little too old. So we had to rename it Future Caucus. And so that is an organization of young elected officials and helping influence and develop them to work across party lines. And so Bridge Entertainment Labs is very much the Future Caucus of the entertainment industry.
What are the metrics of success of Bridge Entertainment Labs?
So we're working with studios, filmmakers, helping them tell stories that can humanize Americans across difference. So it's, for example, we're working with Warner Brothers right now and advising around messaging with some of their recent releases. A24 has this film called Eddington coming out, so we're in touch with them about that. Last year, there was a film called Civil War that imagined a second American Civil War, and we worked with the director, the cast, to help elevate solutions to avoid a second American Civil War in real life.
Steven, if people want to enjoy your content, what's the best way to plug into that?
Just either visit us, bridgeentertainmentlabs.org, or just follow me on social media at Steven Olikara.
Okay.
We've got a bunch of stuff on YouTube too.
And are you going to run for elective office again, or is that out of your system?
I'm open to it. I do feel like I've been on a political sabbatical in some ways, working with storytellers and artists. But I do, you get the itch from time to time. I do feel like the biggest impact I can have around right now is around media and helping to have a healthier political discourse. So we're doing that right now.
Matt Gorman, except for watching you occasionally on Meet the Press, where can people enjoy your content?
Tomorrow morning, well, first of all, at Matt S. Gorman on X. Tomorrow morning at 9:30, I'll be on Fox. So after morning meeting, or maybe do whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
Morning meeting, then check it out.
You're on with Bill and Dana.
Bill and Dana, yep. Yeah. And then actually, Dana has a new podcast out for on Politics, and I'm on with her. That's out just right about now, actually.
You already taped it?
Just taped it, and it came out about an hour ago.
Spoil the whole thing. What's the best part?
Well, all of it. But no, we talk a lot about what we went over today in a little bit greater detail, with a little bit more on 2026 in the midterms.
Man, I look forward to listening to that. You're two of my favorites. Have you been on that show before?
Yeah, Perino's great. Dana's awesome.
So you've been on multiple times. I've never been asked, but
you got to the embassy and Dana Perino's podcast. We have the bucket list for
Mark list here.
Okay, good. Yeah. Couldn't be happier to have you both on. Love always having Matt on, and Steven, we hope you'll come back regularly. Really enjoyed having you on. And again, I'll tell you, I know you think I'm sort of kidding, but I'm really so impressed by all the things you have on YouTube. You're just you're so strategic and tactical and idealistic. I think it's fantastic. So very grateful to you for coming on. And again, hope you'll come back regularly.
Absolutely, very honored. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Guess what? The morning meeting will be on. Tomorrow night, this show will be on. And then at 7:30 Eastern time tomorrow, so in about 24 and a half hours, Cancer Decoded, our weekly program with Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong of the Los Angeles Times, one of America's and the world's great cancer experts. We'll be joined by a doctor who happens to also be a U.S. Senator, Bill Cassidy, who also happens to be married to a great retired cancer surgeon. But Senator Cassidy will be here as always. Remember, we're trying to build the best, biggest, most vibrant community in the world around fighting cancer. So please join us, whether you're dealing with cancer now or not. Cancer Decoded tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern time. And another episode of Next Up will drop tomorrow. And not sure I can announce my guest yet, but it's one of my heroes. One of my professional heroes will be my guest tomorrow on Next Up. And my reported monologue will be on the inability of people in my profession to understand the Biden acuity matter. Yet again, I have to return to that topic because yet again, there's been another event that demonstrates that the media does not understand the damage they've done to our credibility by failing to understand our role in the cover-up of Joe Biden's mental acuity decline. I hate having to go back to it, but I do. And you'll see why tomorrow. Thank you for watching again. Thanks to Steven and Matt and all of you for joining. And we'll see you tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern time on Morning Meeting. Have a good night.